I'm Charisse Fortunato from Shovel the Sidewalk, and on today's episode of Sidewalk Talk, it's going to get uncomfortable. Our topic is race. When it comes to racism and injustice in our country, there are differing and passionate perspectives on the subject. It can be nerve-wracking to have these conversations because you don't want to be misunderstood and you don't want to offend anybody. I do believe staying silent is not the answer. And I think the way to help is to have conversations, to ask questions, to listen openly, and to be open to learning new perspectives. As in all learning, we're going to make mistakes, but that is how we grow. Don't be afraid to have these conversations. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I'm thankful to be able to talk to Eric and Sarah today because I know they'll extend me some grace as we approach this very intimidating topic of race. Eric and Sarah Richardson are friends of mine who happen to be a biracial couple and have a 1-year-old son, Levi. Eric and Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Charisse, for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, Charisse.
You're very welcome. So
this is exciting.
I know. All right.
Cool.
So, Sarah, I want to start with you because I know that you're very vocal when it comes to this topic. And I want to know if this is something you've always been passionate about. And if not, when did you become passionate about it?
So, I would say that throughout my life, I was raised in an environment that we were told to love all people from all different cultures and all different backgrounds. And I didn't really realize what that meant until I was exposed to different cultures. And I think throughout the years, as I have been exposed to different things and been uncomfortable, I've become more passionate about race. And I think traveling and studying abroad and being a teacher overseas in Ecuador, all of that has led me to realize my own upbringing and my privilege that I've had. And it has made me want to just learn more about different cultures and different backgrounds and the effect that whiteness has all throughout the world. And so I think that when I met Eric, I think that I was more aware of our differences in race, mostly only when we're with just a group of white people or just a group of Black people. Then I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I'm white and you're Black. But so throughout the years in my work, just everything, and more recently within the, I think also being a mom has made me more passionate about the injustices and to have these conversations about race. So, yeah.
Did your parents, you talked about accepting everyone and loving everyone. Did they have distinct conversations about race and the white privilege and all that stuff?
Not at all. So, I grew up in a very conservative, evangelical, Christian background. And my parents became Christians when they were young, and it was different. So my dad's family, we can trace our family back to the Mayflower, and my great grandma is from Italy off the boats, and she was, we really identify with being Italian and being from, Welsh and all of these different things. And so some of that was there, and my grandparents definitely were the generation of like, be nice to everyone, but the things that they said were highly inappropriate at times. and they didn't mean any harm, but their ideologies were extremely actually harmful, and they didn't even realize it. So seeing that, like, there was never a conversation about race necessarily. Like, it was more, don't judge a person based on the color of their skin, get to know them first, but make sure, kind of that mentality of make sure that they're have something to offer you, like that they're educated and their worth in some ways came from that. Whereas my parents, that was my grandparents, whereas my parents were more like, love everyone, God loves everyone. They were more concerned about the faith perspective of things rather than necessarily race. But there was also never they also were in the generation of you work hard for what you get. And there was never really as many conversations of like, but we had it easier because we came from a line of doctors and those different expectations. So I didn't really have these conversations honestly until like probably college, till I was exposed to more things and within my educational field and stuff. And then some of these different conversations like started with my parents, I would say.
And Eric, how is your upbringing different than Sarah's experience? And did you guys have those conversations?
Not a lot on our end. Those conversations would rarely come up, other than, make sure, like, yes, this situations like racism exist, and we gotta be like, okay, for the Black people and for us, and make sure we're cognizant of the world we live in as African Americans, that it could be much more difficult to attain success. You have to work much more harder. But not a lot of like in-depth conversations came from that. I love, growing up in this predominantly Black community, Black church, Black schools. So I never really like had to have those conversations because I didn't have that exposure to other cultures right away. Not until maybe like late high school and college, those conversations where I'm exposed to other cultures where those conversations may come up. And but then my parents just joked about me a while. It's a funny story. If it came up in any way, they said, Eric, you're probably most likely to marry a white girl because you act white, you talk white, and like that. So if it came up for anything with me personally, they used to joke about me like that. Other than that, like I said, we never had like those in-depth conversations. Unless it was maybe like a situation came up where we had to, which was rare. At least for me, I can't speak for my parents. Maybe they didn't tell us everything. Just
Okay.
And it's interesting because growing up, there was a time that my dad really liked this pastor that was from the city at Calvary Baptist Church, and we were the only white family that went to this church, and we came all the way from East Amherst, the suburbs, to the city, and we were the only white family that went to this church because he loved this pastor and he loved like the singing. And like it was interesting, because I remember as a child that there were definitely some women like that probably were like looked at us like, who is this white family here, so I definitely was exposed to a lot of different like cultures, but I think that it was just kind of like, yeah, this is okay. Like we didn't really, I don't know if it was like forceful, but it was just kind of like, we love these all different people because we share the same faith. And I don't think that necessarily they always look deeper at the differences between like our race and our upbringing and different things like that. So
Okay. So you guys now have Levi, who's 1 year old, And do you plan on having these conversations with him? How is his upbringing going to be different than both of yours?
I mean, that's the struggle we have. So we talk about that all the time. I think the one thing we struggle with, start off with, and maybe he's too young to maybe like notice this, and maybe we're too young, too early on to maybe like dive in deeper this. But one thing we're struggling with in our conversation we have about this is how to integrate, both of our cultures and backgrounds in his life. Like Sarah and I say, okay, the white culture, the black culture, like how do you give them, expose them to those type of cultures? And what do we do, or other family members? And it all depends on where we want him to live, type of school you want him to go to. Those are all decisions we have to think about. And also for me, my fear is how he's going to be treated because he's of mixed race. Will he be treated differently from both groups, not be accepted because of who he is? He doesn't fully fit in. I mean, us personally, we're going to treat him and expose him the best way we can to both cultures, kind of like food or churches or lifestyle or activities, or where we live. But there's a real world out there that may, they may not show that same type of love for him that we will. I mean, for his parents, of course, that's not going to happen. So it's always my fear that he's going to have a hard time finding his way, and the type of, depending on what type of environment he's in.
But
at the same time, though, I mean, kind of to not disagree, but like, we are very proud of both of our backgrounds. And we specifically chose Levi's name to mean his name means joined in harmony. And our hope is, even though it's 2020 and we would think that we would already have been here by this time in our society, our prayer and our hope for him is to bring people together and for him to be another representation of being proud of who you are based on your background, because he is half white and half black, and he should be proud of being white and proud of being black, in knowing the history between both of the races. And that's a hard history that we're going to have to discuss, of how, just even being mixed and being lighter, that there's history of being treated better in certain circumstances and not being, discriminated against as much because of his lighter skin, or or on the opposite, because he is mixed, being made fun of from both sides of the story, or both sides. But we are aware of that and we're mindful of it, and it's our job. I think it's more my job in some ways to make sure that he is proud of both sides in his history, because he does come from good families that love him and that want the best for him. And we want him to be an example to other people. So we have thought really deeply about this, and for him, and not to put pressure on him, because we want him to be himself, and we want him to identify with the different parts of the culture and however he wants to identify with. But it's our job to make sure that we expose him to the good and maybe sometimes the bad within both of our cultures.
But ultimately, of course, like, let him find his own way, what fits him. Of course, within culture, maybe take whatever he feels best with, bits and pieces from each background, and maybe grow into that. And that's who he becomes. So we can, of course, expose him, but ultimately, give him the freedom to make that decision to be who he is, unapologetically, no matter what. So it's around that fine line as well too. Yes, expose them, but be who you are, not just based off culture and background, but you're so much more than what your skin color is.
Right.
You are as an individual are something special first and foremost.
Right.
And then we talk about backgrounds and cultures. That's just an added benefit. You present something unique as you're created. God created you as you, not as anyone else.
And I mean, even between us, every person within their culture has the right to be an individual. And some of these stereotypes and these different prejudices that we have don't allow for the individuality between each person. I mean, Eric likes 80s music and rock, and I like Latina music and like reggaeton and like a lot of different things. So, when we put people in these boxes and say, you're from here, you have to like this, you have to be like this, and you only can listen to this music, or you can only do this, and you can only like it. No parent, no person should do that for their child. Each person gets to choose what makes them unique and what they're interested in. And I think that we're doing a disservice in some ways when we limit people based on the color of their skin or even their culture of what they need to be, or what the qualifications or the characteristics of how they should act or be.
Are there any lessons that you feel you're going to need to teach him that you guys didn't have to be taught?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's always learning experiences.
I mean, how were you taught in regards to the police, or in regards to different environments? Like, what did your parents how did they
I mean, definitely, be smart. Your interactions with police or anyone else. Be smart. Make good decisions. But a lot of those conversations based off what we can do as ourselves to make sure we don't put ourselves in tough situations. We're always taught to avoid those situations. So I think a different thing, what's going on now, what I teach Levi is, okay, what if you do get in those situations? How do you deal? That's something that's different I could teach him, as opposed to when I was taught to just, here's how to stay out of situations, and here's what you do to avoid that. Avoid those bad crowds. So my parents used to say, avoid putting yourself in situations where you can be trouble with police, or your teachers, or anyone else, or anyone in church, or anything like that. But now I have to teach Levi that, but what to do when he gets those situations. How do we deal with that?
AKA, another way of being more blunt about this is that Eric was very sheltered growing up, okay? He wasn't, he played outside. He was able to do that kind of stuff, but he didn't get to really do sleepovers. He didn't really.
I've had one sleepover outside of family, one sleepover ever.
Outside of family, he did one sleepover. He didn't go, you didn't really go to a lot of different events or places or things like that. Whereas I am the youngest of 5, and my parents let me do anything because I was a good kid, and I was still involved in church and activities. And I didn't really, my siblings, they got into trouble and doing some stuff and whatnot, and with the law, and my brothers, and just stupid things that happened and whatnot. But I was not sheltered. I was very as long as you don't get in trouble and do anything stupid, and don't do drugs, and don't drink and drive. And my parents had boundaries and had guidelines, but I didn't really have curfews. I went all different places. I definitely had sleepovers. I went to concerts. I wasn't sheltered,
Eric.
Yeah.
Why were you so sheltered, do you think?
I think just protected us from, like I said earlier, from tough situations. not putting ourselves in a position, where danger can happen. I think my parents felt that was the best way to protect us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, we didn't do anything. Of course, we had outside, we had friends. And part of that maybe was just my personality. I could probably say my siblings probably did a little bit more than I did. I was always just more introverted, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing for me, even now, just to hang in the house and maybe read a book or watch a movie. So I kind of get worried for me, what can I teach Levi about a lot of the real world, because I don't have as much exposure to, like, as Sarah has to, like, different, aspects of life and situations. But I can teach him, okay, like, how to, like, stay with situations or be smart, what to avoid. But also, like, how to still grow. Like, I'm still learning, about the world, just maybe through different avenues. Talk to my parents, reading books, watching TV and the news, hearing conversations in school. School's a big part of, how I learned about the world. No, I didn't get to travel places or do all this other stuff, but I learned, what other people were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's not do that, or maybe I should do more of that, or look into this. So I was still learning and taking in, like, other people's experiences, even if I wasn't having much of my own. So it was beneficial.
Big difference, I'm just thinking, and it's making me laugh kind of, in terms of some of this. So where I grew up in East Amherst, and my neighbors, we've lived there like forever. We didn't have a key, like my siblings and I, we didn't have a key to our house. We would actually get in trouble if we locked the door. Like, I remember distinctively getting in trouble for locking the door when I was home alone, like as a teenager or something like that. And my parents were like, "Why'd you lock the door? Like, what are you doing?" Whereas this one over here, like, is obsessive about it, and like everything, like checking it, and like, so.
But the neighborhood she lived in, though, she lived in East Amherst, like the same. I'm not sure it still is the safest neighborhood in America. I live in the inner city Buffalo, much different neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
To answer your question, part of the reason being sheltered was just the neighborhood we lived in. Like, just I couldn't really do as much because of the safety aspects. So everything had to be locked. Make sure we didn't lock a door. It's like, why wasn't the door locked? God forbid we missed a screen door being locked. Or we heard the screen door open, unlock, and hit, like, the side of the railing on the porch with oh my gosh, someone's trying to get in. It's like, that's how serious it was. Everything had to be locked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the things, like, I need to sleep at night knowing the door is locked. Now my son is safe, my wife is safe.
Whereas I'm like, okay, I guess I'll lock. Like, I think living on my own and living in different countries and stuff like that as a single woman, now I'm more like, I lock things more, so it's different now. But yeah, it's just, even that is different, in terms of like the police and being afraid. I was raised that it was like, this is our home, you protect it, don't be afraid, it's your right to, like, protect it, and no one's like, there's nothing that's going to happen. Well, not nothing going to happen, but like, the chances of it happening within our area are very low, and it's safe. So yeah, so that's a big difference.
And I think for me, like, we're saying that, I kind of, like, as I've grown older, especially in my own family, I've kind of longed for that type of lifestyle, where I can live in a neighborhood where I don't have to lock the doors. Sarah and I are having conversations about buying a house. And Eric, where do you want to live? Well, I want to live in such a place like East Amherst or Clarence, and maybe somewhere I feel like more at peace with. Maybe I don't have to lock my door. So for me, I kind of like envy that kind of upbringing. Maybe in a positive way. Hey, that's really cool. You can live, this is a place you don't have to lock your door. Like, I can sleep at night. I can feel at peace. My son is rest easily at night. So kind of like the culture things, I'm always intrigued about some of the differences that we have, in a positive way, because, like, I think it's really cool, like, some upbringing, like, you have locked doors, or Sarah able to do more stuff, the freedom to do more. I think it's kind of what drew me to her, because she had that, I want to do things spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like mesh with me, because, I want to try those things myself too. So her saying this stuff, I kind of like lean toward that kind of upbringing as well. For Levi, I want to live in a neighborhood where it doesn't have to lock the door. I want to live somewhere we can go outside and ride a bike and not have to fear, getting jumped by boys in the neighborhood, or girls. I mean, boys, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, so I kind of like, I want that for my family. And I think that's, for me, what I'm working so hard for, what I'm pushing for, to have that. And I think, we do have that for the most part where we live at right now. And I'm just so grateful for that, where, if we forget to lock the door, it's okay. I don't have to worry about no one 4 a.m. in the morning, outside front, doing like really loud music, or sitting out in the car, tinted windows, not knowing what's going on, or having to call the police. I love that Sarah had that upbringing. And I love that, that's what the lifestyle we have right now. We're pushing more toward going forward, even more. I guess I'm probably, sorry I'm ranting, but I guess I want that, because I didn't have much of that. So no more locked doors.
We won't give out your address.
Yes.
Okay, so what, I think you guys kind of touched on it, but I'm going to ask again. Do you plan on having a talk with Levi about racism, and at what point, at what age? He's only 1 year old now, so when do you think you approach that subject?
Honestly, like, if it comes up prior to the age of maybe where he developmentally can see the differences in people and ask questions, then I would talk about it. But just like thinking developmentally, probably not until he's like 5
At least.
or 6.
And more like an innocent way, not like
Right.
serious, like, okay, this you need to know.
Right.
I think it's more like situationally, kind of serious, saying questions arise, or he may ask something. You don't want to like get him too quickly exposed. You still want to have that sort of innocence at a younger age,
Mm-hmm.
versus everyone's the same. And hey, there's another kid I'm playing with. Me thinking maybe close to preteens, maybe, and that's only. Of course, we'll have like a bigger talk. Well, okay, here's your background, but I think there'll be more talks as situations come up. But I'm hoping nothing comes up. We have one big talk with him, and then life goes on, and then everything's married. That's what I'm hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think we can get there. I think everything's going on. I think people are fighting for a world we can live in, where we can be there. We wouldn't have to have these type of talks about race or backgrounds, where it wouldn't even matter. Levi has a long way to grow up. So we'll see, what type of talks we'll have. It's tough to say right now, because
Mm-hmm.
we don't know the type of world we're going to be living in. So many things are changing, and situations changing, people changing. People are being more enlightened. The area we live in is more like accepting or not. So I guess we'll see what type of talks we have as situations come up. Okay, so here's why something happened, because of such and such reason, or look at it this way. So.
And I think that as he, I'm just kind of thinking of it as like a school counselor, like his developmental, like, knowledge and comprehension of more things. And I think that it's actually not going to just be like a one-time conversation. I disagree with you. I feel like it's going to be a lifelong thing, just like with us, or with me personally, I guess, that as he continues to grow and experience different things and, become his own identity as who he is as a person, as a mixed person, then I think that we'll have multiple conversations, and it will depend on, getting deeper developmentally as he grows.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I would say until it's like he asks, then we would probably have that conversation. If it's younger than maybe like 5, 6, 7, you know. If he asked, then we would talk about it and stuff.
But I don't want to get to the point where he has like such anxiety, like he has to be constantly cognizant of, okay, how are people see me because of my background.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want him to come out of that anxiety, that fear. So definitely maybe start with like an innocent way and maybe gradually introduce it to him. But I'm hoping, like, you know, Sarah saying, over time, but I'm hoping to get to the point where that doesn't even matter, depending on the people who are in his life. You know, and no, we don't have to have conversation for everything that comes up. There's going to be good or bad people no matter what for everything. So it may not be just a race conversation. It's going to be like, son, here's a life conversation. What you need to be mindful. Your background is just part of it. You know, people are going to be who they are, you know, good or bad, no matter what you are. Brown, black, blue, indigo, red, Asian, Italian, African, or Kiwi, whatever your background is. People are going to have something to say. And sometimes you just can't, focus on that. Focus on the positive people in your life. Focus on people who are accepting of you. And then grow with that and grow with those people.
But I don't think that we're there yet, like within our society, as a society. And
not a society, but the people within our lives.
Yeah, within
our
like,
lives.
The people that are around.
Like our immediate family and our church family and friends, great. Even strangers, when we go out, they get so excited when they see us and Levi, like, oh my gosh, he's a beautiful baby. Or we had one lady say, oh, I love brown babies. And probably insensitive, but she meant
she was older. Old. So she didn't realize that it was offensive.
So some conversations could be funny like that. Well, son, she didn't mean that, but it's kind of funny. She meant well.
Was it offensive to you, Eric?
No.
It was more offensive to me.
No.
I thought so.
Because Eric is very gracious and he is very like, oh, it's okay.
I mean,
where I'm like, really? Like, because she had said like, oh, I have a brown baby that lives next to me. And I'm like,
as we're out with another mixed couple who are about to have a baby soon as well.
I was like, oh, okay.
So
that's interesting. And I was thinking, I'm like, I wonder what that brown baby looks like. Or is that brown baby black? Is that brown baby Indian? Is that brown baby Spanish or Latinx or whatever other, what is that brown baby? You know what I mean? Like, it was just, but she was like 80 and so we give grace to a lot of different things, just like I give grace to another person that said mulatto. Like there's terms that used to be socially accepted that are not anymore. And when people use them, like, instead of just shaming them and making them feel bad, like just, maybe having a conversation and then
can you explain? Can you explain why mulatto is offensive? Because I did not know that.
Yes, mulatto is offensive. And this kind of, I learned actually through my study of Spanish. So just like in the US, a lot of just any colonized country has different terminology, and specifically within Spanish, there's a lot of different words for the different mixing of races. But mulatto, I don't know what the origin of the language is, but what that meant was the percentage of black that you were. So it is extremely offensive because it was a way back in the day throughout history to determine the percentage of black that a person is. And the reason why that mattered was when they separated either the duties like within the house or your heritage or your background, and if like slave owners had relations with slaves, like there's so many different terminologies and the percentage of black that a person is. So now, maybe it used to be harmless that it was like, oh, you're mulatto, you're mixed, but it was this percentage. you're half, or you're 1/4, or you're this. So it's all kind of, it's a word that just is not, it's not good.
Okay.
It's offensive.
Okay, good to know.
So, yes. So.
Is there any conversations, like me as a parent, my struggle is, what do I say to my girls who won't be experiencing those fears? And we have the conversations of love everyone and be kind to everyone. But is there something I'm missing? Is there something I should be expanding on?
Go ahead, I'm still processing.
Okay, you're still processing. Honestly, like, if I am telling just a quick story of kind of what has started me on my cultural competency and learning experience, Reader's Digest version, I always thought that I was aware and that I loved everyone and everything was great. And it wasn't honestly until I did my internship at Amherst High School, and the person that I was under, she was Black, and it was the first person, and I never felt like she liked me. This sounds really conceited, but I actually had to earn my my work and my worth as a person, instead of just like coming into it and like being like, oh, I'm like a nice person and like she loves me. Like, I actually had to work and gain my worth from her and be exposed and be uncomfortable. And it was the best. It was the hardest thing, and it was the best thing, because I didn't get it. And I didn't get that when when parents would come in, because it was at Amherst High School, and there was this woman that came in the one time, and she was like, we're moving to Williamsville because we just don't like how the school is switching, aka we don't like that the school is becoming more mixed with different people, with Black people, is what she was saying. And I didn't get that, because in my mind, I came from Williamsville schools, and she's like, in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, Williamsville like is a better school, but why is it a better school? Like, and why would she think that? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And why, like, I was just opened up. And Amherst is a really great school, and it's a really good school. And that was the first like really experience, and going to a cultural competency training and doing this, like, in essence, like what your privilege is and how, based on your heritage and based on your background, how that has led you to where you are in your ability to achieve, go to college and be supported and have higher education based on your background. And really, like, grad school and the research that I did and that experience in my internship, and having someone really encourage me to grow and not question me, but she was the first person that I felt like was honest and real with me, and had those conversations, and opened it up to me of like, hey, like, Black and white experience is different, and you don't get it, in essence, and you need to work for what you have and not just be given it, is mm-hmm. what, and that to me is something that I definitely want to teach Levi. And I mean, I feel like I had that, but I didn't have that, like, to that extent, in essence, because I am white and because of the color of my skin, I have had it easier, and I have not been discriminated against just based on the color of my skin. Mm-hmm. And compared to other people that have. And that really was my starting point of like, I love all people. I don't see color and how that actually can be harmful. And so I never told her this, because throughout the years I feel like I need to tell her, just like how it was transformational in a positive way for me. But yeah, that was kind of one of the first experience of being like really uncomfortable, and then turning that kind of shame and a little bit of guilt maybe into like a learning experience and growing. So I would say that I would want to teach your children that they have privilege just based on their skin color, and how all people should be respected, just as a person in general, but like that they have to earn their way as well. That they're not entitled to anything just because they're white, even though it is given because they are white, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And you actually brought up something that I wanted to ask too, where you said the phrase, I don't see color, can be harmful. Explain that, because that's how I was raised, is I don't see color. Everyone, and I was always conflicted with that, because I was like, but I do. Like, I notice someone, and I mean, it stands out, right? So then I would feel guilty because I do see color, and I never really understood, what that was supposed to mean. So explain why that phrase is harmful.
Okay. Do you want to explain a little bit, or do you want me to explain it?
Yeah, because when I think of actually color, I'm actually personally learning that's something that's not maybe good to say either, because I figure out, hey, that sounds innocent enough. Hey, they mean well when they say I don't see color. They see me as a person, which that's what we want. But I think where Sarah's getting to is, yes, still see color, still see the differences of people's skin color and what they had to go through based off their skin color, their background, their culture. Not even just black and white. These conversations start, I feel like, always stop and start with black and white.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many different cultures that had different struggles. Think of the people like the Irish or the Italians coming off the boat, something like that. Or think of the Asians, or like the wars, like World War II's, like the think about all the backgrounds that people all around the world that have situations based off just their culture. So it's not just seeing I see color, but it's like, hey, you see culture as well too, to maybe try to learn about the experiences. I think that's what kind of Sarah's getting to.
So I was raised in that way as well, and it was meant to be as a positive, and I think that where it comes from is this idea that a lot of white, specifically kind of Americans or white people in general, is like, I don't see color, and everyone should be like us. Everyone should be just like us. And if you are just like us, then I like you, aka white people, the dominant culture, quote unquote. And God rest her soul, but my grandparents were very much like this. They love, and they've said demeaning conversations or comments about different people, by saying like, oh, you're so educated, or you're so well spoken, or you're so, you dress like so well, stuff like that they don't realize is actually really offensive. And so the I don't see color can be, then you don't see what that person has actually experienced, or the things that they've had to go through that are different than if everyone was the same, because not everyone is the same. So yes, we need to love everyone the same, no matter on their color or their culture, the background. But when we say that phrase, we are diminishing that person's background. We're diminishing that person's experience. We're diminishing that that person has a unique culture based on maybe how they look. We're diminishing the fact that if I'm mixed, maybe I'm mixed with 3 different races or cultures or backgrounds. And maybe it was really difficult for me as a, I don't know, Asian person, because I'm not good at math or, whatever stereotype that people have based on different races or things like that. So not seeing the color and saying, I don't see color can actually diminish what that person has experienced or the things that are challenging because of their skin color or their culture. So
that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And now that you explain it, it just broadens my view. And I feel like this is exactly why we have to have these conversations. And that was a very difficult question, uncomfortable question to ask, because you don't want to be offensive, or, you don't want to be taken the wrong way. But I love that I was able to ask that question. I love that we can hear that answer. Are there any other things that white people think are harmless or, are helpful that are actually offensive or harming that you guys can enlighten us with?
I mean, I have a hard time these type of questions personally, because we're having this conversation with friends the other day. Now, I don't want people in my life. I can speak for the Black people. I don't want people, like, we go to church together. I don't want you to see me at church as like you have to walk on eggshells and think about every single thing that you say or do. Am I offending Eric because he's Black? Or every single, how I act is offending him. Yes, I'm Black, but I'm also an individual. Like, I'm probably wouldn't say I'm your typical, I want to say stereotypical Black guy. I stink at basketball. Do not think me at all. I love 80s music. And Yanni is one of my favorite artists. I went to a Yanni concert, and the best concert I've ever been to was a Celtic Woman Christmas concert. So I don't want people to see me like feel like they gotta walk on eggshells and they can't like talk about, they have to like talk about things that they perceive that I care about. I don't want you to feel like that. Don't treat me any differently. I think the problem that we're having, and maybe if you want to tell your kids teach something, is, think about the perceptions everyone has, all the cultures. Like Sarah, it's not just a white or Black thing, like Sarah said, Asians, the perceptions people have, Asians, they're good at math and they're bad drivers, or something like that. Or the perception they have for Black men is like, hey, we don't take care of our kids. Or women who are Black women are always loud, or what certain people say, like, angry Black women type of thing. Or white women in the suburbs that they're all like stuck up and rich and had
Karens.
Whatever, Karens type of thing. They had everything handed to them. I don't want to get to a point where white people, if I could say that, feel like they have to teach their kids that, what they're doing, how they treat people with the love and kindness that I'm sure maybe you're raising your kids with, people we know how they're raising their kids, is not enough. That for me personally, and I can't speak with other African Americans, I don't know the experiences. For me personally, that's enough for me. Treat me just with love, kindness, the best way you can. And yes, see my color. Initially, fine, see my color. But then, after you get to know me, you see, okay, Eric is, I had people make jokes like, Eric, you're a white guy stuck in a Black guy's body. Like, jokes like that that people make because I'm so much more than my skin color that I feel like, I want people to get to know and not be afraid to get to know. And, if you feel like you offended me, just come and ask me. I won't bite your head off. We'll probably just laugh at it.
But even saying that is offensive because, again, it goes to the point that, like, so Black people aren't allowed to be polite, and they're not allowed to be like you are, so and Black people say that and white people say that. So it's actually like that's actually really offensive.
Oh, it goes both ways.
And it goes back to the point that stop limiting people based on the color of their skin. Yes, look at the color of the skin, get to know them, get to know their background. Understand that there are things that are affected because of history. Know the history, the uncomfortable history. I just recently had a difficult conversation with a close person about systemic racism and about just some of these other hard topics, and talking about white fragility and some of these other microaggressions and these terms that are buzzwords nowadays, but are actually like research based and big important things to talk about. And I think that we need to know that those things are real, and we need to talk about those things. And even within the Christian community, how Christians have done things in the name of God and Jesus that were wrong because as white people. But in terms of Eric, and he doesn't want to be the spokesperson for all Black people.
I can't, because I haven't had all those experiences. Like that, I was never brutalized by the police. My experience with the police, for the most part, has been great. I remember growing up as a kid, we dialed 911, and the operators knew the name of my family. Hey, so and so, you got a problem? Everything okay? And they'll be there like 5 minutes to see if a situation happens. That's why I said I don't want to speak from every Black person. I'm not taking away from any experience that anyone has, but I don't want to be unfair to the people who are in my life that are white or other background, that are working so hard and been so great with me and so great showing love and kindness to me, and tell them, well, hey, that's not enough for me personally. That, no, I don't appreciate that. And even if you say something insensitive, I'll be so much more apt to forgive you because I know who you are as a person. We got to know each other, become friends. That, you know what? You meant well, if it offended me, we can have that conversation later. But I don't want to get to the point where me personally, I'm like biting someone's head off, or have people walk around eggshells for me because they're afraid of offending me.
But
go ahead.
I do have to say, what?
I was going to say something else, but go ahead.
Go. No, you go.
So, I mean, the point I was trying to make is earlier, it's like, we're so much more than our background cultures. We don't want to assume because I'm a certain skin color that I have the same experiences. I have not had all the experiences like maybe other Black people have had. I grew up in the Black neighborhood, but I did grow. I had two mom and a dad, grandmothers. I've had a great upbringing that not every African American, obviously male, has not had. And I'm very gracious, people who are like, have issues with because of that. And I understand that, but I don't want to be like, I have to speak because the Black people, because I'm Black, automatically means I understand all the struggles that we have. Or the same thing, Sarah, like she understands all the struggles that maybe Italians have. Sarah's so much more than her white background. She knows a lot more about Spanish. She really gets to know her culture than I think anything, which is amazing. It's impressive. That's where I feel like you get to the person as the individual. See my color as a Black guy. But say, hey, we got a Black guy at a church, an all-white church. That's really cool. See that, and I'm okay with that. That's fun for me. I love the people excited. I want to get to know this guy even more because he's different from I am. And then you find out I love 80s music and like, okay, I'm not getting any kind of Black struggle from you, but you're still cool, whatever. I'm different from my skin color, the typical Black guy, but I can't speak for every Black person. I'm not taking away any of the struggles, but I don't want to pretend that all the Black struggles affected me personally. Not to say I haven't overcome things, I haven't had to work much harder. But hard work hasn't hurt anyone. It just makes it that much more better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But at the same time, again, to play devil's advocate, Eric is one of the most gracious, and forgiving people that you'll ever meet. And he never says anything bad about anyone, to the point where it actually makes me annoyed and upset.
I do. I call things out.
No, you do not. No, you do not.
I have one story where I didn't call a person out personally, but I know this person, and they were so innocent about it. We had like friends a while back ago, white friends, which a dinner, someone, and we had set tables. And I'm not naming names. No one needs to know names. No issue with this person at all. And the person saying, "No, Eric, there's people who are black at the table not supposed to. You guys are the same culture. Can you go talk with them?" And I'm like, "No, let's go. Just go talk with them. It's fine." Stuff like that. But then I find the person, if I would have the conversation, I mean, I did call that out, say, "Hey, that's wrong." A close person for we know.
Just assume, oh, there's other black people over there. Why don't you go be friends with them?
I did call that out.
That kind of
but
stuff.
Not that person, because think about back to my, okay, who is that person? Where did she come from with that? Did she mean that? And knowing that person, or did he mean that? I'm not saying he or she, excuse me. With that person, they probably would have felt bad if I would have called them out on that.
But again, he's not he is very gracious. And to that point, that kind of comes within our own white fragility, that we want someone that is perfect like Eric, who is so kind and doesn't make us uncomfortable and doesn't make us question those things. You know what I mean? He is a good person he's not going to shame you for those things. Maybe another person is, and they're going to be very offended by that. And if they are, that's okay. And that is their experience. And that is the biggest thing that I have learned from other friends and from people in general, is that we as white people do not get to choose how Black people or people of color experience racism, process things. We don't get to say, hey, why aren't you advocating? Why aren't you protesting about this more? Because maybe it's too much. Maybe they haven't had those experiences, and maybe that's not their personality. Maybe they are so overwhelmed and they're just internalizing it. We don't get to choose what offends them and what doesn't offend them. And we have to be mindful of that and be willing to build a relationship first before we just put all of this pressure on them to have the answers and to respond in a way and to teach us as white people of what to do, and even my other friend, she also was like, hey, I don't really feel, she's Black. She's like, I don't really feel like I have been like discriminated against, but again, why are they always the ones that have to be gracious with us? Mm-hmm. Why are they always the ones that have to say it's okay when we have been offensive? Oh, it's okay when we say inappropriate things, And Eric the other day was kind of put on the spot, but not in a bad way, but like, people were praising him as like,
in a good way.
In a good way. But something that to me as his wife, as a white person, that I've never had to think about when we're talking about police or when we're talking about like different scenarios. I've always been very confident, maybe because I am white and I know that that there is privilege and power, quote unquote, within that. And so he said that
I could say, I feel like I have to be like perfect. It's like, Eric, the question was like, Eric, how do you feel about the situation? Like, what is your response? And that's kind of like, okay, I was prepared, but I should have expected it. Like, Eric, we want your perspective. Of course, they're going to ask. Like, I don't have all the Black perspective, but I think the one thing I was truthful with when I said this, and sometimes I feel like I had to be perfect, around maybe white people or other people's backgrounds, because I'm representing, Black men, especially Black men, Black people, especially Black males, because there's definitely a stigma about Black males that out there, and I've written a poem about encouraging Black men. So I don't want this to feel like I'm totally don't understand the plight of Black people. I totally get that, and I've evidence of that. I've seen that. I'm not taking that away. And I feel like I have to be perfect to representation of the positive aspects of African American people. That we are upstanding, we are good people. We're not we're hard worker. We're not all gang bang in the street, smoke weed, or whatever stereotypes they have. Or we do take care of our kids. Like there are good fathers in the world. That's I feel like I have to be one of my biggest motivations for Levi. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or bad thing. Is to be the best father I can be is because I'm a Black man. Is because I want to tear down the stereotypes. So what Sarah's saying is so right. There are barriers that I have to overcome, and we have to overcome as people. I'm well aware I can be as upstanding as possible, but I'm still going to be seen first and foremost as a Black guy. And there are perceptions come with that, and certain prejudices come with that. You could be like a white person, maybe coming to the Black church or like that, or somewhere in the African American community. There's prejudice come with that, like, or perceptions. Oh, she's like, one of those wannabe Black type of white women, or white trash, or whatever they say. There's prejudice come where people say, oh, that Asian person behind the wheel, they can't really drive. I understand those barriers that we have to overcome, that I have to overcome. What motivates me to be the best person I can be is to break down those barriers. I want to be an example that, hey, I'm not the only one. I always say to people, I'm not the only one like me. There are so much more, including my brothers, my father, and my uncles, and so many other men in my life that are Black, and women that are Black, and my mothers, and my stepmom, my grandmas, that are just like me. Like, who do you think I came from? Friends I've met, people I work with right now, that are Black and just working hard and grinding and being a good example, but nobody talks about that. So my motivation is to be the best person I can be and get that perception that we are different. So that's one thing I struggle with. But then on the flip side, I don't want to assume that people who I interact with from different backgrounds assume a certain thing about me. So I have to be careful about that as well. I don't want to be, assume that you, Teresa, use that example that you hear, because you meet me the first time, you assume a certain thing about me. I do want to be careful of that line as well, too, because it's not being fair to you. It's not taking account maybe things that you learned or who you are as a person, how you were raised. I don't know who you are. I don't know who such and such is. I didn't know who Sarah was when I met her. I had to get to know Sarah. I had to get to know people who are different light or different backgrounds in my life. And they had to get to know me. And then that's when maybe you can build those conversations. And I think I've done okay. I like to my own horn, but I think I've done okay to maybe break down those perceptions that people have of Black men. Like, oh, Eric is one of many. Like, well, who else can I find? Yeah.
But again, to kind of play devil's advocate,
It's okay.
Eric, I don't have pressure to be perfect all the time. I don't have the pressure that I don't get to just be myself. I'm allowed to be myself no matter where I am and no matter whatever environment I am in. Honestly, I do think that it is because I'm white, because I'm confident in myself and how people are going to respond to me because I'm white. And maybe I think some of that also has to do with I know who I am and I'm not afraid to be who I am also. So there's probably a little bit of that, but I've never had to be cautious of and be perfect. Like, if I got into trouble, I would never be afraid, other than the wrath of my parents growing up, that I would be discriminated against, or that the police wouldn't listen to me, or that they wouldn't hear my story, or that I wouldn't have rights, or that I wouldn't be able to say, I'm going to call my lawyer, or, stuff like that. That's really kind of snobby in some ways. and also like white privilege, definitely. So that he doesn't talk about that,
But
and he doesn't, like he did when he said that, I feel like I always have to be perfect. That really crushed me, because I'm like, that's got to be a lot of pressure to like constantly have to be the representation for your race, because the viewpoint that a lot of people have is negative. So you constantly have to be that person that is showing, no, we're this, we're
Mhm.
powerful, we are this, we are good fathers, we are, constantly having to fight. And that's not fair.
we'll put that in a different perspective. But think about it this way. Like, when we talk about the word perfect, number one, what do we mean by perfect? Like, what a perfect father? Well, I mean, there's no such thing, but a good father. No matter what race, background you are, you still want to always be the best person you can be. I do want to be fair when someone says, when someone says Eric is upstanding, he talks proper. Well, if I'm around a group of friends, okay, maybe my vernacular may be a little lower than within people I'm hanging out with. But if I'm in a professional
But
setting,
that's a microaggression, though.
if I'm in a professional setting, my
To say that, that's wrong. That's saying that Black people or people of color aren't able to talk properly. That's
no.
a
What I'm saying is,
microaggression.
the point I'm trying to get to is there's certain points in life where you do want to be the best of yourself. Yes, okay, maybe around family or friends. Okay, yes, I see where Sarah's coming from. But if I'm in the workplace, I had an interview at work today. I'm definitely going to be the best person I can be. If part of that is maybe showing if I work much harder to be the best I can because I'm Black, to work much harder to give out good perception. Well, I'm just going to be much better off and much more stronger and more of a qualified candidate than I would be if I didn't.
But it's unfair to say
mm-hmm.
that you have had to do that. It would be, it's unfair to say that
mm-hmm.
like that's not a thing, because you, in just saying that, you are showing that if I just went to college and got a degree and then my parents were in the business, or then my family blah blah blah, and oh yep, she's has the qualifications, but I got the job just because it was easier, because I knew someone, or
But that's life,
that
though.
kind of stuff.
It's all based off who you know for life.
In
Other
some
jobs,
ways,
but it's off you know.
Yeah.
But presentation.
We're kind of digressing
yeah.
here. I'm
sorry about that.
Do you
I
have
love
another
this.
question?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll say
I'm just letting you guys.
Sorry. Yes.
What wrap up with saying is presentation matters. How you present yourself matters. Our church, I act so much differently at our church right now than I did at the beginning. But part of that is like I'm around new people. I want to present my best self. But now, as people got to know me over like the last 6 years, I'm much more relaxed with who I am. I chew my food maybe my mouth open time to time now, as opposed to proper like I'm mouth closed, or I'm talking more and I'm cracking more jokes or anything like that. As opposed to be like more timid and more on edge, like I have to be this perfect person. So that being perfection comes to a lot of people I don't know, or when I first meet someone. But a lot of that comes with trying to be your best self, to good impression, which I feel like anyone would want to do anyway. So when people say trying to be perfect, that's the concept being the police. Like, okay, if I'm pulled over, don't make any mistakes. Like, okay, ask can I use my phone, or keep your hands on the steering wheel? Don't make any mistakes at that. But everyday life, yes, stuff like I'm representing my background, but part of that is I do want to be my best self as Eric, not just the Black man. So that's how I feel with that. So I'm sorry if I'm going on with that, but
No apologies. Any last words from you, Sarah?
There's a lot of things that I feel like I could say about this topic, but I think that the biggest thing that I have learned in general is that I don't know a lot, and I will never, even though my husband is Black and my child is mixed, I will never know the hardships that that people of color throughout the world, and specifically in America, that Black people have to endure or have to carry from the mistreatment and from all of these things that have been placed and have been put into place based on just skin color. I'll never be able to fully understand it, but I want to listen. And that's the biggest thing that I think that we as white people can do, is listen and not have all the answers, because we don't have the answers. And each person is their own individual. And before, when in the initial stage of my processing and learning and growing, turning the offense into a learning opportunity. And as a Christian, just realizing that God cares about that 1%, that one person. And he wants us to fight for the injustices that happen with his people. And we don't get to decide what that looks like and how people have experienced it or process it. And every person deserves the opportunity to be the best person of themselves. And when we limit people based on these factors, on their skin color, on where they grew up, on where this, and this, and this, whatever you place their value or worth on, you're not getting to know that person and their talents and who they were made to be once you put them in a box. And I think that could be so detrimental, and you're missing out. You're missing out on creativity and beauty and all of these things that so many people of color have been doing since the beginning of time and civilizations and history. I mean, we're all from the same place. We're all from the same people. We need to appreciate where we're from, but realize that we're so connected and enjoy the differences. And that's all I have to say. Exactly. And that is probably why I love Eric and his family and different cultures and everything. I have learned, and I am aware of my upbringing, and I'm aware of things that I've had to unlearn and question in terms of how I was raised, or some of the different ideas that seem harmless but are actually harmful, and just continue to grow as a person and listen to other people and realize I don't have the answers. I have no answers, but I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm trying. So I think that there is strength and there is grace in that, and that if I get offended, then I should take that as an opportunity to grow.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, and I'm thankful for people like Eric and some other friends that are people of color that are gracious and that are willing to be gracious during this process.
I don't want the burden. I don't want people or white to feel like they have to bear the burden to change every other person. You can only affect the immediate Black people in your lives and how you treat them. But I don't feel like you should bear the burden of the whole world. Like, every person has the duty to know how they treat people in their own lives and get better at treating those people. And the love and kindness is enough.
And action.
Action, yes. That's enough. What you do is enough. And people say, like, what can I do more? What can I do more of? And I'm like, what you do is enough. Just being who you are is enough. I don't want to put you on the same pedestal as actual people who are racist and prejudiced, because that wouldn't be fair. And you shouldn't have to bear the burden of, changing the hearts of those people, because that's not who you are. Not specific, just you, just white people in general, Sarah. That's not who you are. I can only speak to how I felt treated by people, and not everyone. Of course, I have maybe mistreated with white people, but for the most part, the white people I've interacted, since like college on, that's been white has been positive, and I appreciate that. I don't want them to feel like that's never enough, for me. I'm not saying for other Black people, because I can't speak to everyone's experience. But you can only affect the people that you interact with that are Black, and me being one of them. If I'm the only Black person you interact with and you treat me well you're doing your part to make a change in the world, or continue to make a change in the world. And you shouldn't have to bear the burden of what Susie Q in California was doing, or Jimmy G, whatever, Jimmy Joe, or New York City. That's not your responsibility to bear of every white person to change their heart, especially actual real racists who want to do harm and cause division. Back to the question, teach your kids, teach them to love. Start with that, the principles as Christians in the Christ Jesus, and what that looks like, and let that be the guide to how you treat people. Like Sarah said, always be open to learn, but that goes both ways as well too. Always be open to learn to the white culture. What is that about? I want to be open to learn too. Don't be so closed off. So I'll just leave it at that. So.
Well, I thank you guys so much for this opportunity, because I have learned a lot. Sarah, I thank you for your challenges. Eric, I thank you for all your grace. You guys are the perfect combination. And I would love to have more conversations and never stop the conversations and always keep learning. It's been a pleasure having you guys on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm Charisse Fortunato from Shovel the Sidewalk, and this has been Sidewalk Talk.